Well, good evening, my friends, near and far, from and those in Whoville. I just watched Dr. Zeus, The Who's, so we're going to call this Whoville from now on. So this is the magic, the mystery, the beauty of the star tetrahedron, the mystical marriage of the divine masculine, the divine feminine, which is then power and love unified, which then creates a wave form around, within, and through the body that has the image of the star tetrahedron. Not a solid structure, but a structure built of consciousness and light that isn't visual with the physical eyes, but with the interior eye, the third eye. It's what we create by beginning to imagine it. Imagination is the key. Imagine it moving in this wave form around and through the body. The real mystery of the star tetrahedron, though, it then creates a doorway, an opening in the very middle of the star tetrahedron as it's turning. A vortex, a vortice opens back into the void, from out of which then spirit arises forth as a living spring. And as spirit arises forth, this living, pure spring, it then touches the facets of the spinning star. And this multifaceted star, it then spins out holographically the light form images of the reality that we then decide to create. And so we become creators of reality. Most individuals in life right now, they're living off of the waveform of the thoughts of mind, of wanting, of desiring, of needing, of seeking to form the world out there to find some fulfillment, peace, happiness within, which is part of the evolution of the human form. But we're now in a new paradigm that we opened the doorway, as we know, in December 21st of last year into the Aquarian age. And now the new paradigm is rapidly awakening, where we must become creators of life, which is then the Christ field, the star tetrahedron. And because the old form, the old paradigm that we have evolved out of, that has been the Piscean age that really began 2,000 years ago, it's a very visceral, a very dynamic, and a very powerful thought form that was created. And I was talking to one of my friend clients the other day, and she was saying that she's having a little bit of problems with fear, a little bit of worry, and even subtleties of depression. And I was saying to her that right now, because the old paradigm is destructuring, it's breaking down. The doorway closed on December 21st. And as that closed, that it begins to destroy, destructure itself so that a new form can be built, it looks somewhat tragic for those who are focused upon that which is falling away. And then the mass of humanity that is now worried about COVID, some worried about finance, many worried about health, about jobs, um, everyone walking around in masks, feeling a little bit of fear and worry. Am I going to catch something? Or am I going to transmit something? And it creates literally a waveform energy that then begins to circumnavigate the globe, almost like a cloud form, kind of a gray cloud form. And I told her that she was now picking up on this cloud form of the mass of humanity that is then kind of worried about this old paradigm. And we who are now here to structure the new waveform of the new paradigm, we must be so focused with the focusing of the mind on what it is we seek to create, what it is we feel within our hearts, feel within our imagination would be the joy of my creation. And with the star tetrahedron, you see, we then create it from inside out. We then feel it from the heart opening. And as spirit is arising forth, this is the fuel, if you will, the creative fuel spirit. And as we bring forth the focusing of the mind, to no longer be thinking, examining, worrying about, dissecting, uh, Trump, Capitol riots, all of it. That's old news. And because it's old news, if you focus upon it, then it creates it to be a reflection of new news once again. And you say, well, how did that happen? Well, it's because you were focusing upon what transpired. And in the focusing of that, you then create the mirror of light energy off of it, then recreates it again in another form. And you say, well, see, it's happening. But it's simply humanity that has not yet stepped into the knowing that it is now within each of us that we must take responsibility. Such a grave time of taking true responsibility. I respond to that which is within my heart, within my truth, within the I am, the Christ I am, that everyone is. It's just in many people, it's so covered up by the ignorance of old thought forms, they don't recognize it. But this is the joy and the beauty of our work, you see. We hone it, refine it, we imagine it, we feel it. And as we constantly do that over and over, it then finally creates it to be a living waveform that we are encompassed within. We're walking through life with this beautiful Christ field star navigating, circumventing all around us. And the beauty of it is, you see, that as it then emanates out from us, it automatically then begins to create joy and happiness and peace and goodness and grace as an outpicturing of what you see we are emanating from us from inside out. Now, I was telling again this person that was worried about the old paradigm. I said, we must not be so focused on creating the new, digesting not the old. And my analogy was if I create a beautiful banquet for you, and it's just lush with all the food you could ever imagine, and you eat some of this food and some of that and partake some of this, and then you digest it. If I came back to you and I said, okay, now I'm going to feed you a banquet tomorrow of the food that you've already digested. Well, think about that for a minute. I don't think that's what I want to be having for a banquet. And so that's what we do. You see, if we are focused upon the old news, we're digesting old news, old energy, rather than creating a new banquet every day by simply focusing the mind, being within the heart. What is my joy? What is my imagination? What is the feeling of love that I would seek to emanate from inside out? And I told this individual, you don't want to dislike the fear, nor the worry, nor any emotion that comes up, the anger, the angst. Don't dislike it. Simply use it as a signpost. When you begin to feel the movement of that energy within you, that's when you want to go, oh, I've been focusing upon old news. No judgment, no criticism of self, but simply, what do I now choose in the banquet of my creation of the new becoming? What would I choose to focus upon? Because I know that my imagination now creates my future. My imagination is my news that I'm going to see tomorrow. That's what's going to be on the headlines of the paper: prosperity and joy and happiness and peace. That's the news that you're creating. You're not digesting yesterday's meal. That's gone. That's, if you will, crap down the drain. Let it go, folks. Otherwise, it simply bubbles up once again, and you're worried about it. You're angry about it. You're digesting what happened with Trump, with the markets, with the Capitol riots. Let it go. Come back to the imagination, the feeling of the joy of the star tetrahedron, the Christ field that is already living within, around, and through you. It already exists. Now simply focus upon it with great joy and magic and let it arise forth. Any news from anyone online?
No. So far, everybody's very quiet.
Everyone's happy and content?
Yes.
Let's see here if everyone... Oh, yeah. Happy faces everywhere. So one of the ways that we are learning to feel this summoning of this open doorway is through our breath work. when something happens throughout the day, that there's a little bit of emotion that rises forth, some frustration, some despondency, whatever it is. If you just come back to the breath work that I'm going to show you once again, it calms the mind. It refocuses the parasympathetic, the sympathetic nervous system of the body. It brings it back into balance by simply breathing. But this breathing is then also the summoning of source from inside out. And of course, it's called the Soham breath. And the So is the sound of the Ujjayi breath in yoga. When we're in breathing, it's a sound. We gently constrict the throat. We don't need to do that necessarily in our breathing today, but what we're doing, you see, the So is this deep in breath. We're filling the lungs, the diaphragm is going down, the belly is going out, and it's this deep in breathing. But we're not only breathing in oxygen in the Soham breath, we are feeling from the open doorway right here in the very center of the chest where the star tetrahedron has its vortice focus. Through the open doorway, we're feeling the arising forth of the living spring, spirit, God, source. So it's the breath is filling my body, but the So from the interior heart is now filling my entire auric field with the breath of Spirit God. And as I simply then let go with a hum, letting the breath go, the out breath, I can feel this sparkling, effervescent, living light going out to the world. I'm feeding the body this new energetic form of the living light. And as it flows out to the world, I pause for a couple of moments. And once again, deep in breath. So, summoning from inside out, spirit filling the auric field. This great bubble with the pure source spirit, God I am energy, holding for a count, hum, letting go. Very simple and very easy. You can practice it with eyes open. You can practice it at your work. You can practice it driving. It's difficult to do the Soham breath with eyes closed and driving. Sometimes I can do it, not. So let's go ahead and do the Soham breath for about 5 minutes, if you will. Again, a very deep, deep in breath, filling the lungs, the diaphragm down, belly going out. We always like to have the spine perfectly erect because it is then the rod of initiation. Down through the very center of the star tetrahedron, there is a pure white gold rod. Well, this is the spinal column. And it's around the spinal column that the star tetrahedron is then moving, and all the 7 chakras, like lights, become fully illuminated. This is enlightenment. So let's go ahead and do the Soham breath for approximately 5 minutes. A couple more very deep Soham breaths, summoning source from the open doorway within the chest. And very easily now, slowly coming back into the now. So once again, whenever an emotion, something comes up throughout the day, there's anything that is out of balance, if you just take a few moments, do 5 minutes of the Soham breath, you are literally summoning from the open doorway. We are becoming so familiar with God's source is from the open doorway within me. It fills my aura with the living light. I'm now filled with light, and the gentle hum, the letting go, sparkling, effervescent light dances out into the world. Again, I practice it walking, driving, gardening. It becomes part of my day, and it's quite beautiful to keep one very calm, balanced, and centered. So the beauty of the star tetrahedron is that it is the mystical marriage of the divine masculine, the apex above, triangulation below, the divine feminine apex beneath, triangulation here. And as the upper triangulation, divine masculine, it turns left to right within the auric field, and the divine feminine turns right to left counterclockwise. You don't need to get hung up on seeing the counter rotation. Over time, it automatically begins to happen. You don't even need to necessarily see the star tetrahedron. It will also arise forth in your seeing, your interior seeing, as you simply begin to imagine it and feel it in your meditation. It becomes a living quality within and through you. As it turns, again, there is then this magic that happens in the turning of the triangulations that opens this sacred doorway right within the very center of the chest, the heart chakra. And from out of it, then, source like a living, pure spring arises forth. It touches the facets of the spinning star, multifaceted, then light emanation, creating a holographic living light show that is the imagination, the focusing on the feeling nature of that which you would create. And so this is, again, what the very physical sun is doing. The star tetrahedron around and through the sun moves so quickly and so rapidly in all directions, you see simply a ball of living sunlight. Well, this is what happens with you and I as we become very, if you will, entrained within the star tetrahedron. It's like the being Jesus, who was the master, who then was able to fully systematize the Christ field. He was then a living ball of light. Well, this is the new paradigm. We become the enlightened ones. We carry the light within the world. And that is the magic of the star tetrahedron. So I'm going to take you through the full formulation of the star tetrahedron, beginning with bringing the attention between the eyebrows. As we're doing our meditation today, we're going to hold in our meditation a specific ray of light for Colin, who is in Phoenix and going through a little bit of challenge. We don't want to focus upon what the challenge is. We simply want to see Colin and everyone in our life simply illuminated and living as the Christ field of living light from inside out, because that is the one true thing that exists. Around it is the shadow play of the illusions that we believe within, the illusions that we feel are some focusing of error, but it's not error, it's simply we're not focused upon the living light. We'll meditate for about 30 to 35 minutes, and of course, I will join you and gather all of us into the light activation of one living light. So let's go ahead and close the eyes and begin to feel the body relaxing. We can be aware of our breath from the Soham breath, spine erect, beautiful deep breathing. I am the light. We bring our attention between the eyebrows and imagine we could draw a line straight back. Within the approximate center point of the head, we ignite with imagination the light of the soul. Ignite the light with imagination. By gently holding our attention here, we feel the light increasing. It's a living light that fills the mind, the waters of the brain, with the light of the soul. We bring our attention to the heart chakra at the sternum and we illuminate with our imagination the star tetrahedron. Upper triangulation, divine masculine power, is turning left to right clockwise. Lower triangulation, divine feminine love, is turning counterclockwise, right to left. And these counter rotations open a sacred doorway within the very center of the chest within you, and arising forth from inside out the living spring of Source, Spirit, God. It touches the facets of the spinning star and creates living sunlight, sparkling, effervescent, gloriously dancing through every cell and tissue of the body, flowing out into the world as the living light. I am the light. This is the truth. I am the light. Let's sit quietly together, and I will gather all of us together into the living light. Spine erect, star in front and back and all around. Welcome back. And so, as we practice in our meditation with the star tetrahedron, imagination is the key. The imagination is the key to not only the star tetrahedron, but to the creation of the life that we are seeking to live, to prosper, to unfold. Because the mind cannot tell the difference between a clearly imagined and a feeling and reality. I'm sure all of you have had probably the feeling of maybe sitting quietly, and it could have been something that was difficult in your life, or maybe it was a great a love that you've experienced, some great feeling in that moment. But if you would sit quietly and simply imagine either that negative thing or that positive thing, you would find that there would once again be a hormonal flush within the physical form, because the mind cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what is actual in experience. And so this is very important in our work, that we simply now begin to imagine, and we use the divine masculine, which is not thinking, nor examination, nor judgment, nor looking at the old news and thinking, well, what happened? But simply using the divine masculine as just like the projector at a movie, a very bright and focused light of intention. And hold the light of intention upon the imagination, the image, the feeling, and it sends light flowing through it, just like the movie theater. Imagination is the film, the feeling is the film, and as the light shines through it, it holographically flows out from you, and it creates prosperity, it creates joy, it creates health, it creates whatever you would enjoy having at your disposal as the Christ being, because you are now truly in the new paradigm of creating new news every day by focusing and feeling and giving and unfolding. And this happens because you've opened the sacred doorway from within side out, where spirit, source, God I am, it flows from out of you. It touches the facets of the spinning star, and now with the imagination, the focusing of light, and now the fuel of creation, God coming forth from within, it literally begins to create it as an emanation of living reality around you. Very exciting, very exciting. This is the new paradigm. This is what we're stepping into. And so when we were beginning this night with the meditation talking about Colin, and Colin, it looks like on the outer form, there's some difficult things happening. But in all of our healing work and in all of our imagination, we only want to see the perfection that exists within, the Christ being that exists within, the radiant star field that already is the one living truth. Around it, there could be clouds of illusion that someone is holding on to, that is manifesting as dis-ease or tragedy or things out of balance. But as we hold intent upon the light of only seeing that which is the one light of God's source within, it just like the sun shining in the meadow, the clouds are dispelled, the flowers in their beauty, the forest in its grace. Once again, it reveals that it's already there. The clouds have been dispelled. That is the light of the Christ. It shines upon that what is true and illuminates what that is true. And with imagination, we then create the world that we will then step into. This is the new paradigm. So don't focus on the old news. Let it go. The old paradigm is finished. It's done. Some people out there, they're beating the dead horse, but let it go, folks. Let it go. Otherwise, emotion comes up, fear, worry, difficulties. Oh, woe is me. Let it go. Let it go. Don't digest yesterday's meal. I'm telling you, don't pick up yesterday's meal that's already been digested and chew on it again. It will taste crappy, guaranteed. All right, my dear friends and beloved friends, thank you for joining. This is such a joy to be with you. It's always so edifying and dynamic when we come together like this. Won't be long before we'll all be gathering together in actual physical form as the spring begins to come forth. I'm sure this will happen. Much love, my friends. Go forth and prosper and imagine your reality. So be it.